How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Blade Bias, and today I'm talking about a pair of balisongs that I didn't realize go very well together until I got both of them in hand and compared them side by side, and that would be the Squid Industries Nautilus and the LDY Cygnus. Both of these knives I have talked about before on numerous occasions, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen me posting about these things quite a bit. So, kind of wanted to talk about what makes them such a perfect pair, because the Cygnus is still, although it is getting a lot more recognition, it is still something that people have not tried very much, and these two have, they're like brothers in a weird way, where they both have the same kind of philosophy, and they both have the same feeling, like they both give the same vibe, but they go about it in very different ways. First of all, talking about the Nautilus has a strong handle bias, it is very light, and the G10 covers the full face of the handles with the aluminum, which is now 7075 aluminum, running in the middle as kind of a channel with liners construction. Right off the bat, from a design perspective, that is like one of the biggest differences, is that the Cygnus is sandwich. So interesting. As you might be able to see, you can see, it's actually probably a better example if I open them up. I am bad at this. You can see through the Cygnus. You can see my finger. You can see it through the handles. There you go. There's a good example. You can see through the Cygnus. That is because it is channel. It is two pieces of titanium with a spacer in the bottom there that, you know, holds the pieces together. Whereas the Nautilus is just a, you know, it's a guy. It's channel, and I'm not going to call it Chanwich because that's not it. It is channel, just with some G10 scales on top of it. So, both of these knives are G10 top layer, very lightweight, really good grip, but when you flip both of them side by side, it kind of feels, like I said, like they're brothers. Because from a design standpoint, going a little bit further with that, I'm all off topic. I'm all over the place in this video, but you know, you guys seem to like when we just ramble. So switching over to the Cygnus, instead of being G10 on top of, in this case, titanium, you have G10 inlaid inside of the titanium. Now, I made a video, I believe it was called the Best Modern Balisong or something like that, where I was talking about how absolutely amazing the Cygnus is and how the inlay of the G10 inside of the titanium is absolutely fantastic, and I love it so much. But that is one of the things that makes these knives slightly different, which gives them the merit of having both of them. Like, I'm glad that I have both of them, because having a full G10 face is nice, especially for the reason of the scales are very easily changeable, and now Squid sells blemish scales on the website, so you can very easily replace these things, and it's not going to get, like, if you do damage it, you can just replace it, fix it up, all that stuff. Where on the Cygnus, of course, the material difference, so damaging is kind of different because you can re-anode titanium because it mostly doesn't really actually get damaged. It's just kind of like cosmetic damage that you can refinish. But, you know, you're damaging the actual titanium itself because the G10 is inlaid inside of the titanium, especially on the bottoms of the handle, so it's a little bit more difficult to replace, a little bit more difficult. LDY doesn't even sell replacements of these as far as I'm aware. So durability-wise, there's a big difference there. Now, I briefly mentioned it, but the material difference, titanium, aluminum, aside from the G10. G10 is on both. And just from an aesthetic standpoint, they kind of go alongside of each other, because on the Nautilus, you can see here, you have, you know, there's a good picture of the red. You have G10, you could see some stuff through the G10. It's not just one fat slab You know, there's some contrast there, especially if you get a light color on a dark color or the other way around. I have kind of dark on dark because the red is kind of dark, but same thing with the Cygnus. There's some contrast there. You know, there's some dynamics. You know, and that is a very cool thing. One of my favorite looking Nautilus nautili is the Oreo knot, people call it. It is the winter knot. It is a black on black winter knot. It's one Ethan used to have, which is white scales and then black aluminum, black blade, and that just provides such a stark. I combine stark and sharp, such a sharp contrast that makes it very, very cool to look at. It's just a cool looking trainer. But, you know, design and all that. Another big thing is that the Nautilus is on Tang pins, the Cygnus is on Zen pins, and also there was one more that I was going to say, but I forgot. It was design related. Oh yeah, Nautilus only comes in a trainer. There is no live blade officially, at least from Squid. There probably never will be. And the Cygnus, you can do both a trainer and a live blade, which I think having the live blade Cygnus and the trainer Nautilus is another thing that complements each other. But the design comparisons between the two are not the real reason I call them like brothers. It's the actual performance and the flipping that makes me think that these two are basically a match made in heaven, and owning both of them is something I'm very glad that I am able to do. So Nautilus, like I said at the beginning, strong handle bias, very, very light. It is lighter than the Cygnus is, not by too much, but it is a little bit lighter. Both are very, very, very lightweight knives. So a little bit lighter than the Cygnus is, and it is a decently strong handle bias. So you get lightweight, strong handle bias, fun, effortless to flip. Now the Cygnus, a little bit heavier, not by much, still a very, very lightweight knife, probably by like 0.2 ounces or something like that. I don't know the measurements off the top of my head, but they are very, very close in weight, still a very lightweight knife. A lot more neutral than the whatever it is, the Nautilus is. A lot more neutral than the Nautilus is, but still carries momentum very, very well, which is another thing that makes these a great, great pairing, is that both of these knives carry momentum and flow beautifully. They both have a very easy kind of, they're very easy for me to flip. And I find that flipping them is no challenge, provides no issue. It feels very natural and very comfortable. And having knives that feel so close yet different enough to, like, you can easily tell like the differences between them, and I find myself wanting to pick up one over the other depending on the day and depending what I'm feeling and what I'm trying to learn. It's very cool because there's not many knives that are this close that are still different enough to warrant both of them. Another thing is that the Cygnus seems to be a little bit more rounded. The edges seem to have a bigger chamfer to them. And also, the Cygnus is a little bit chunkier. It's a little bit beefier. Not by too much. It's not really a beefy knife. But in terms of actual design, it is just a slight bit chunkier. So, you have two Balisongs that are both very, very lightweight, incredibly well distributed of the weight, super fun, super easy on the hands, super easy to flip, super flowy, with the main differences being one is more handle biased, one is more neutral. There's of course a material difference, so titanium versus aluminum. The design differences, of course, and the ever so slight weight difference. So these two complement each other insanely well, because I am a person who likes very grippy and very lightweight knives, which both of these perfectly satisfy that. And depending on what I'm trying to learn, or the flow I want to have, there are some days where I want a more neutral balisong, or I want to practice flipping on a live blade, or I want, something like that allows me to do certain tricks just a little bit differently. So I'll pick up the Cygnus that day. But there are other days where, I just want something easy. Just want something that's just going to do, bad example, just want something that's just going to do rollovers, cherry pickers, just everything super basic, not basic, but like, everything super flowy with absolutely minimal effort. And I want a trainer, and that is where the Nautilus comes in. So having the option to pick from both of them is very, very cool. And another way that these two complement each other, which is the way I will be using them, is that these two fall in very different price brackets and kind of consumer brackets. The Nautilus is a very expensive trainer. They start at like $2 something. They're over $200, so not cheap at all. Luckily, since the V2 is out, you can find a V1 Nautilus for a lot cheaper than that. You can find a V1 Nautilus going for under like around $150, and a lot of people are trading them off because it's something that not everyone enjoys. So you can get your hands on a V1 Nautilus for not too bad in terms of the balisong hobby. You can do it for pretty affordable. Now the Cygnus is a lot more expensive. I think it's over like $500. I think it's actually $450. $450 for a Cygnus, but you do get the benefits with that. You get the sandwich design. You get that inlaid kind of insanely cool and very effective design. It's very effective in giving you grip where you want it, but also not being uncomfortable, because G10 can be a little bit scratchy at times, and especially if you're flipping with it all day, it can get pretty like chalky and kind of rub on your hands in a weird way, and it can just be annoying. But they solve that by putting titanium in the areas where your hand is really going to be touching for things like fans and rollovers with this titanium bit that sits up here. So you do get that on top of a live blade and a trainer blade, and if you spend a little bit of extra money, you can get 2 live blades, 2 different designs, and a trainer blade. So the Cygnus is a little bit more expensive, but you do get things for that price. And where I'm going with all of this is these 2 knives are perfectly suiting my preferences at the moment. These are 2 things that I'm not really flipping that much anymore, and a lot of my knives, a lot of balisongs in general, I'm starting to care less and less and less about. And these 2 are really the only 2 balisongs right now that I find myself actually wanting to pick up and it keeps me actively flipping. When a lot of balisongs, I'll flip for 30 seconds and be like, okay, I don't really care anymore, I'm done. But these 2 are some of the only balisongs in my entire collection that keep me actively wanting to come back. And I prefer having beater balisongs. I like to take them out. I like to, flip wherever I want to flip. I don't want to safe queen my balisongs. So that's where the Nautilus comes in. I got this in a trade for my swordfish, which I traded for another balisong, which is just like constant rotation. You can get a Nautilus in trades and find them pretty cheap secondhand. They make decent beaters because you can get them pretty cheap secondhand, in terms of like the balisong hobby. And for me, I discussed it in my last video, the Nautilus is so easy for me to flip, and that's really what makes it a good beater for me, is the fact that I can just casually flip this thing, and it's a trainer, so I can do it in public, and geez, it doesn't hurt my hands, I get no wrist pain, it's easy because of the balance and the lightweight, so it's really easy for me to daily carry the Nautilus. The Cygnus, on the other hand, and not worry about it get damaged, by the way, that was kind of, I lost my whole point in this whole thing. I'm scattered today. But being able to do all this and not really worry about damaging it too much and be okay with carrying it out. The Cygnus, on the other hand, I do not want to drop this thing on concrete. Luckily, my apartment is fully carpeted, but I would not take the Cygnus out, me personally, just because I love this thing. I would not really take it out and EDC it, because I kind of just want to keep it in decent condition, because I love the Cygnus, and it is my precious baby boy. so I wouldn't really EDC it, I wouldn't really damage it like that. But that's where the Nautilus comes in. It's my EDC, you know, my flipping in public trainer. Hey, I know I'm going to be at this thing where I'm going to have some time that I'm not really doing anything. Let me bring my Nautilus to flip while I'm waiting. And that's another thing that is this perfect combination, is have something that I want to keep safe, that I flip, that is just a super pristine, incredibly well designed, just piece of absolute gold. Then I have the Nautilus, which perfectly counteracts that and is something that is incredibly easy to flip. It does have some tolerance problems and overall is not the same quality as the Cygnus is. Obviously, very different price ranges and different materials. But it counterparts that in a way that feels close to the Cygnus and still satisfies all of my preferences, but in a package that's a lot more comfortable for me to EDC. Both actually flipping comfortable-wise because it's less strain on my hands due to the balance and weight, and also just comfortable as in I don't mind dropping it a few times. It doesn't really make me sad when I drop my Nautilus on concrete because worst case scenario, I can buy new scales for it. So if they get really bad, I can give it a little bit of a makeover. But other than that, that's, I think, it. I think I covered most of what I wanted to say. I don't know. Very scatterbrained. I need water. I need a drink. My mouth is dry. But yeah. The Nautilus and the Cygnus make a very, very good pairing. It's also cool that I have them in colors that make a good pairing. I have the red and black Nautilus and the white and blue Cygnus. But yeah, these two knives are both very good. I like them both a lot. And that's really all I've been flipping here over the past couple weeks even. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. You're all very cool. Thank you. Bye bye.